Hi, my name is Zach Fisher, and welcome to another edition of my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about networks, which is also a fun topic. And uh, cringe, we're going to be talking about routers today. So, last episode we talked about switches, and what I did was I drew an analogy to the physical world because I'm a mechanical engineer, and one of my favorite books is William Gibson's Neuromancer, which kind of transports this guy into the virtual reality, which is actual physical reality, and he can actually physically manipulate things in the virtual reality. And I've found that very useful um, in thinking about um, the virtual world, is when you put it in terms of a physical reality, because everybody, at least most people, it seems like, since you can actually physically touch things and grab things, and you physically deal with things every day, then it helps. It makes you understand the virtual world a lot easier, and most of the things that happen in the virtual world actually are very similar, and they are actually happening on a physical level, and they have physical analogies that can help people understand it. So the way I last time I talked about switches, and um, how switches are really about determining how to communicate with, or if you're on a, so if you think about the network like your road, the road system, and every time you want to communicate with somebody, you go in a car and you go to their house. um, what you end up having to do is, the first thing you do is, in this virtual world, we don't have cars that we can control. We have cars that are self-driving. So you don't drive the car. You don't make the driver doesn't make the decisions. These are self-driving cars. And every time you come out of your house, you your car already knows, okay, this is the address of my house, which has an IP address, a subnet mask, and a MAC address, just kind of like like the number of your road name, your state, your zip code, and your country. All of those types of things. That's very similar to the address that each computer has. And as soon as you get out of your house, you're going to hit a switch, which is going to shoot you to any other house that's on your street. So if you're trying to communicate with any other computer that's on your street, that's on your local area network, that's really what I'm talking about here. Is when you're talking switch to switch, it is always when you're just using a switch, um, you're just going to be talking on your local area network. So what ends up happening is, if you're just talking to another computer on your network, I'm talking to my server, I'm talking to my phone, then it just hits the switch. Your car, you program it in, it hits the switch, and then it knows where to go based on the MAC address, which is kind of like the highest level address that has pretty much um, a lot of information in it. I'm not going to go into that in detail today. It's your hard each piece of hardware has a very unique MAC address. Uh, but let's just say, like, the vast majority of the time that you are using the network, unless you're just talking to an internal lab or a server most of the time, which most people aren't. Most of the time you're talking to the outside internet, somebody who is living across the country, or some application that's hosted across the country. Well, what happens? Well, in this world, you go in your car and you program in and you say, okay, I'm going to be talking to this person who's completely across the country. Well, your switch goes, okay, and it switches you down. Well, you're not going to go on your road, your local road, to or the back road, the local road. You can't even get there if to a lot of places. Um, you're going to have to go on the highway if you want to talk to somebody who's all the way across the country. Nobody can go across the country on dirt roads, which is essentially what this LAN is compared to the network outside of it. So switches are going to get you only so far. It's only going to get you on this internal network right here on your road. As soon as you want to go outside and talk to a computer that's outside of your network, or if you want to go in this physical world, if you want to go and take your car and drive outside of your neighborhood, you have to go on the highway. And to get on the highway in this self-driving car in the virtual world, you are going to have to hit a router. And what the router does is the router I think some people call it the router, some people call it the router. But the router, what that does is it says, okay, well, guess what? The switches say that, guess what? You're talking to an IP address that is outside of this street, of this logical area network. We're going to have to go onto the highway. So what the router does is it says, okay, boom, and it shoots you out onto this highway to your destination. And then your destination will have another same basic thing. Your destination will have router, which will help you get off the internet, and then you'll probably hit a switch which will help you hit your friend's house and get to your friend's house. And that's kind of how that works, is that the switch is just for the internal network. The router, boom, goes outside of that network. Extremely high level, but I think that the physical representation of this would have been helpful for me as I was trying to wrap my head around it. So the switch is just for the internal network. The router is to communicate outside of the network. I'm not going to confuse you with some some more details around this for now, but I think that this kind of covers. I'm just kind of trying to go one step at a time. But the router is going to be talking to this level. It's going to be looking at this level of your address that you're programming in. It's not going to be looking at this level. So kind of like when you're looking at mail, sometimes the certain large post offices are just going to route all of your postage to a certain zip code, and then after that zip code, after they get to the zip code, they'll go to the exact street number. So that's kind of how this works. Is when you're looking at switches, the switches are looking at the MAC address. Once it goes out of the LAN, typically this is going to be done. Actually, for sure, once it's outside of the LAN, it's going to be done on the MAC address. Inside the LAN, typically it's done through MAC addresses. So I hope that this helps you understand the difference between a router and a switch, and hopefully it'll help you understand some of the deeper concepts once I go into them in some of my subsequent videos. Once again, my name is Zach Fisher. Like, subscribe, and comment with any questions. Thanks.